Let's get to the facts. 1 in 6 black men have been incarcerated as of 2001. If current trends continue, 1 in 3 black males born today can expect to spend time in prison during his lifetime. Nationwide, African Americans represent 26% of juvenile arrests, 44% of youth who are detained, 46% of the youth who are judicially waived to criminal court, and 58% of the youth admitted to state prisons. 35% of black children grades 5 through 12 have been suspended or expelled at some point in their school careers, compared to 20% of Hispanics and 15% of whites. About $70 billion are spent on corrections yearly. So how do we step in? The answer is simple. We intervene in pivotal stages of adolescence. By doing this, we ultimately preserve our youth and make a better society for us all. On average, teachers spend about 37.5 hours a week with their students. This isn't counting after-school functions and outreach on weekends. Students look to their teachers for guidance, especially young black males. So where are the black male educators? According to The Atlantic, black male educators average about 5 to 7 years in the field of education before they change careers. Why?
Look at my favorite student, man. He dressed up today.
My name is Joseph McLemore, and I am a third grade math and science teacher in Tampa, Florida. I am also a graduate of Florida A&M University's esteemed College of Education. I believe that there are 3 reasons that African American males leave the field of education. One, it is the social status. Society has built the perception in our minds that teaching is a profession that is really for women. And especially an elementary school teacher, society has built the perception that that is for Caucasian American women. Me personally, being in a professional setting and having casual conversation, when it comes up that I am an educator and an elementary educator at that, the reactions I get are absolutely priceless. They're not the ones that you would expect of positivity, but more like bewilderment or why did you choose that field? I also believe that African American males leave the field of education because of the salary. As a father and a single father, I have a very difficult time raising my children on $40,000. I've been teaching now for 8 years, and I think it's absolutely absurd the pay scale that I am on compared to other professions. I firmly believe that teachers and education is the foundation of every other career that it has ever been created. Without teachers, you wouldn't know how to read, how to write, how to add, how to multiply, subtract, nor would you learn the proper social skills. Last but not least, I believe that a lot of African American males leave the field of education because we are a bit undervalued. I teach in Tampa, Florida, and in Tampa, Florida, there are 150 elementary schools. Out of those 150 elementary schools, there are 2 African American male principals. Now, is it just me or is it something wrong with that? I believe in the times that we are in now that there is no better person to lead an inner city school than an African American male, especially with the tragedies of countless young African American men. I believe that now, not tomorrow, not next year, is the time to start promoting African American males so that that younger African American males can see another man of their color, of their background in a position of power so that they'll strive to do better.
Okay, Travis, the reason why I think black men are leaving education is because the hypocrisy that goes along with education, and that when teachers teach in education and they actually see what kids are being taught, and black men see how much black boys are hurting, and they want to tell them the true picture about who they are and where they came from. But then you're tied into just doing curriculum, instruction, and pacing, and teaching ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and not teaching the whole kid who he is. And people get disillusioned that, what am I really teaching this kid? I'm not teaching them about life. I'm teaching them about things that really don't matter, and sometimes they may get discouraged. But if they can fight through that discouragement, there's power in education, and you help kids when you do that.
Why are black teachers choosing to leave the teaching profession? Very thought-provoking question, Mr. Travis. Let's go with starters. The starters, low pay. You know, the pay is what it is. Number two, the notion of teaching being a feminized job. Another point, you know, a lot of the black professionals are choosing to go to other routes of education. And this one here is a little bit on the political side, you know, having your prowess, having your skills, having your whole livelihood, your career being judged off of tests. To me, that shows a lot of pressure and a big disincentive for a lot of black male teachers, and they don't want to be placed under that type of scrutiny, so they chose to go other routes, and I don't blame them. You know, it is what it is. Thank you.
I believe that there are a shortage of black male educators. It's not 100% true. This is what I've known and experienced over the years and heard from colleagues and so on, is that the black male teacher is looked at more as a disciplinarian versus being an educator. And their ideas and so forth about driving the educational piece is somewhat overlooked. It's not 100% true, but that's just what I've been hearing over the years. And another idea, another thought is the pay. A lot of, and this is just working from corrections, you know, a lot of men, they have expectations about pay. You know, I want to make sure I have this, that, and the third. Then, time goes on, you have student loan debt, car note, car insurance. It's a lot, and they tend to leave versus a female staff who may be a single parent or supporting financial piece in the home, and it's constant income, so they stay a little longer. But those are just my opinions.
All right, my name is LaShawn Goree, former teacher of 18 years in the classroom. I officially retired 2 years ago to start another profession. Different reasons why I chose to leave the teaching profession, which I loved, but became hectic, became stressful, and it just wasn't what I thought that I would do for 30 years. You may ask, after 18 years, why the change? Basically because I like to do things that's fun. It stopped being fun. Again, it became stressful and more demanding of time, and what I had for my family and what I had designed for my family, it just wasn't economically possible with a teaching salary. What amazed me and still to this day baffles me is when I changed careers to a career that you don't need a college degree in, which is a corrections officer. Again, it baffles me that after 18 years of teaching, I went into being a corrections officer. And mind you, I worked overtime. But in my first year of being a corrections officer for the city of Atlanta, I made $13,000 more than I ever made in my teaching career. And again, that baffles me that I could go somewhere and work where I didn't need a college degree and make $13,000 more in 1 year than I did in 18 years. So that's a huge reason why I left the profession, is because I don't think we're that well respected, especially in America, than teachers are around the world. I feel like teachers, firefighters, police officers should be some of the highest paid professions in the world, at least in our country. But unfortunately, we are some of the least respected as far as being professionals. I don't care what you do in America, or basically around the world. If you're talking about going to a profession, you can go from the president to CEOs of any company to anywhere that's being professional. You have to have teachers. You have to have teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade. And with that being said, seeing that every profession needs to have an educator or a teacher, we should be some of the most respected people in America. But unfortunately, we're not when it comes to pay. So that was one of the main reasons that I did leave the profession, because just wasn't paying enough. Especially, and I have some other things that went on in my life personally that I just had to leave. But not to go into those things, but teaching just couldn't afford what I needed for what I needed it to do from a financial standpoint. And that's one of the main reasons I left, along with those others that I stated earlier. So with that being said, our powers to be, politicians, if you would like to keep men in education, you have to start paying to compete with other professions. That's pretty much what I have to say for now. I mean, there's other things that I can say when I come back as far as what's on my mind or what comes to my mind, but teachers have to get paid more, or you're going to continue to lose, especially men, because we're so-called the head of the household, and in order to provide for our families, we have to be able to make more money if you want to keep good teachers in the profession. And basically, that's the bottom line, is we deserve to be paid more. I mean, I love teachers. I always will love teachers, and I'm always going to work with kids. But as far as making it my livelihood, I just can't do it. I can't afford to do it in order to continue to do the things that I want to do and provide for my family. Now, from a standpoint of this being a great profession and feel good about it, oh yes, that's great. But a lot of times it takes more than that to keep people into the profession. So again, powers that be, our politicians out here, our community leaders, we need to push for more finances for our teachers. That's pretty much what I have to say. Mr. E, I appreciate you for letting me share this. And if I think of anything, which I'm sure I will, that I think that can help you accomplish what you're trying to do, then I definitely want to let you know. All right.
Well, I think my take on it is a lot of times feel like we're not being heard. Education is it's a woman-dominated field. You see a lot of women in administration and things like that, and they tend to have their views and the way they want to do things, and a lot of times they don't want to listen to what we have to say as black men. And I think that's a travesty, because a lot of the kids we're dealing with are black young males, and they need some kind of guidance, and we could be there right there for them. But at the end of the day, you don't want to deal with all the arguing and fussing in the back and forth and things like that, and it's easier just to go and find something else to do. And so I think that's what it is. It's just a lot of back and forth between the women in education, not getting your point across, not being heard, and it gets frustrating. It gets really frustrating. And why deal with that frustration when you could be doing something else, making a lot more money, doing something else, and enjoying your time a lot more. So that's what it is.
Okay, I just think that black men leave the profession of teaching, lack of support, lack of discipline, and we came up in a generation where discipline was key. Nowadays, it's just a lack of support from parents, sometimes administrators, and sometimes parents. And all of society's ills have been placed upon the back of teachers. And I just think that with us not being able to say what we really feel and sometimes do what we think needs to be done to help our students, it causes us to leave in a short amount of time.
I believe black men leave the teaching profession just because of the stress. It's a lot of pressure being one of maybe one or two or three males in the school. It's a hard job to do when you're constantly, you're brought to be a father figure, and you're taught to be, you're told to handle this or make sure that, these kids get that kind of guidance, and you don't have the support. If you can only get them for 8 hours a day, during the week, 7 or 8 hours a day during the week, and, the rest of the time I spend at home and there's no support, it's really hard for that to stick, and it just gets frustrating having to do the same thing over and over and over again every day.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Presley Charles, District Administrator Served as a school administrator for about 6 years in Leon County, St. Lucie County, and Duval County in Jacksonville, Florida. So I do have some experience in this field. The question was asked, why do I feel that black males are leaving the field of education? And it could be so much to be covered on this, but I'll give you just 3 points. Education is becoming very diverse, and with the population, but it's not being reflective in with bringing in diverse teachers. Number one reason I say is working conditions. When those black males do get these opportunities, they put us in the rural schools or the schools, the inner city schools, and or the turnaround schools, and expect us to be automatically disciplinarians. They burn us out. They make us become more managers instead of leaders. Another reason that sticks out to me is the lack of mentoring within the working condition. So it has been a struggle for people to guide us. So we kind of are trying to like shooting in the dark at times. Another reason is the lack of respect from our colleagues that we can be intellectuals and that we can add to the body of work in our schools, especially on the curriculum side. So they feel like we could just talk about discipline and things of that nature. The second reason is the lack of upward mobility. We do want to find ourselves becoming assistant principals one day, but unless you're political to a certain extent, or if you want to willing to give up your soul, you don't get those opportunities. So it kind of is very disappointing to get into the field of education for that. And the third and final reason is salary. The salaries that they're paying teachers in the education is not enough for us to take care of our family, especially as being men that we're taught to be breadwinners and sole providers of our homes at times. But with these kind of salaries, we can't do it. So we're working multiple jobs. I hope I'm able to answer those questions. Have a good evening and thank you.